Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I did wake up with a sore throat this morning, so you might be able to hear a raspy kind of thing. But that only means a sexy voice, so I hope you can abstract from that and still listen to my magical words about books. Summer is over, it sadly is. Even though I am looking very much forward to autumn, I am going to miss those summer days in which I was able to just relax and read for a whole day if I wanted to. I got through a lot of books this summer, and I thought that for this video I would like to highlight some of my favorite titles that I encountered this summer. I did have quite a few books to talk about, but I've selected 5 in total that I consider my favorites of the summer of 2018. So that's basically what this video is. I hope you're up for it. And yes, that was... no, he's not there anymore, but that was my cat Zeus lying in the background. So let's get started with a book that... with a book that daunted me so much, and it surprises me that I decided to actually pick it up during summer, because in my head this is more of a wintry read. But nevertheless, I read and I ended up loving The Mermaid and Mrs Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gowor. Now, the reason I was daunted by this book is because of its size, and also because it's historical fiction containing mermaids, and that's not a genre that I read a lot from. I don't read a lot about mermaids, and I find that the books I have read previously haven't exactly been my favorites. So I was apprehensive, but I picked it up, and I knew right from the beginning that this was a gorgeous story that I was going to devour. I did, and as I said, I loved it. Even though this is a modern book written a few years ago, it reads like historical fiction, and I liked how it brought me back to that era of the 1800s in which society was different, people behaved differently, we had these very distinct classes, and then this book follows both the lower class and also the upper class. We get to follow 2 specific people, the mermaid and also Mr. Hancock. And actually we also get to follow a hooker called Angelica. So 3 characters whose destinies entwine in some way. And I just found this book to be magical. I don't know if it would have been even better if I read it in autumn. I think it might have added to the great ambience. But nevertheless, it's on my list because I think it deserves the hype, and I do recommend that you pick up this book if you haven't already, and do yourself a favor and pick up this gorgeous hardback edition, because who wouldn't want this one on their shelves? Next book is a book by an author that I discovered this summer, and I have fallen completely in love with her, which is also very surprising because she is a crime novelist, and I don't read a lot of crime or psychological thrillers, but that has changed this summer, as you will see from my list. However, the author I'm talking about is Karen Slaughter, and I have here The Good Daughter, which I think is my favorite of hers so far out of the 2 I've read of hers. I have cat fur in my mouth, nice. So I devoured this book as well. I loved how fast-paced it is, but it's also slow-paced, so that we get a good mix-max of the both of them. The very first chapter threw me away. It was almost a bit too much to read. I felt bad inside. I felt like I had no idea what was happening, and I felt like if this is what the whole book is going to be like, I'm not sure I'm in for the ride, because it's definitely too horrific. The second chapter was a bit better, but it was still really bad, and it played with some of my personal fears. And once again, I was intrigued, definitely intrigued, but I was also so scared. So I had my reservations about this novel, but then I was delighted to find out that the rest of the book slows down a lot, and it becomes more of a character study, which is what I love in my psychological thrillers. I don't care too much about the actual crime. I want to learn about the characters and really get to know them better and follow them, so that by the end I don't want to let go of them. And that's how I felt with this book, and also in general with Karen Slaughter's novels. I love Karen Slaughter now. I own 4 of her books now. I've read 2 of them, this one and her newest one, Pieces of Her. This one is my favorite, as I said. And then the last 2 novels I own of hers, I will save if I can. I mean, sometimes the mood gets over me and I just had to read another Karen Slaughter book, but I think I'm going to save them for come winter or come spring or come summer, because I feel like crime and psychological thrillers are great for summers for some reason, and I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Then I have a book which is kind of funny to put on this list because I rated it 3 stars, but it's one of those books that has grown on me and it's really one of my favorites, even though it's hard to explain. It's not one book that I would put on my favorite. I don't know. I really don't know. I can't explain it, but the book is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I read it on my Kindle. It's a very slow going book, and while I was reading it I was a bit bored and also a bit frustrated with the characters and their decisions. But as I said, after having finished it, I feel like it's a wonderful story about humanity and the relationships we create between each other and how those relationships might damage you and obstruct your growing up. Basically, this book is about 2 couples. One couple is 2 girls who used to date but now they're just best friends, and then the other couple is a married couple who are actually famous. One of the persons is an actor and the other one is a writer. The 4 people meet occasionally to have dinner and chat, and then the relationship amongst them develops in very intricate ways that you might be able to see coming, but it's the way that these relationships develop that really interests me. And I feel like this is a book that is about life, and it's about how we grow up and form friendships that, as I said, might damage you, but you can't really get out of them because they're part of your life and you are just dragged in. I found this book to be hugely interesting after all, and I remember reading the last pages and then realizing it was finished, and I was like, whoa, why did it finish here? I need more. And it's just a book that's been growing on me, so it deserves a place on this list. I also read a few memoirs this summer, and one of those became one of my favorites. It's Educated by Tara Westover, a wonderful, wonderful book that kind of feels like Tara is writing from a perspective in which she's still going through all of this. She's not really at the other end. She hasn't really reached a conclusion to all of this, but I didn't mind. I feel like this is what life is about. You never really get through things and can just stand back and look at those. I mean, it takes a few years at least to do that, many years I think, so I didn't mind too much feeling like this was a journey that is still going on. Basically, this is about Tara's childhood, where she grew up in America in a family that is very alternative in their look on life, look on society, and look on upbringing. That is probably my mother. Yes, it was. This book definitely comes with its share of horrific events that will break your heart, and yeah, they are not very pleasant to read, but I think they are important to read to really understand what was going on. These parents have a bunch of children, and the parents didn't believe in government, so they didn't want to send their children to school. They stayed at home and they helped their parents with their work. For instance, Tara, she was sent to do some very hard and gruesome work for her father, which you should not let a child do, and we get some vivid descriptions of what happens during her work days. It's also about medication and how they don't trust doctors and hospitals, so whenever a child is hurt or whenever a person is hurt, it's up to the mother to save that person. And as you can imagine, things don't always go the way you want for them to go. It's also about Tara as she grows up and tries to emancipate herself from this family and become her own independent woman who breaks free from her roots and tries to establish a new life and a new identity amongst other people. I liked it a lot. I found it hugely fascinating, and I have seen it on a lot of people's favorites lists, so it's not just me who says that this is an absolutely wonderful book. And then last but not least, I found or I discovered another favorite author who is a crime author. And once again, it surprises me a lot. But apparently I'm a crime reader now. But once again, it's not crime per se. It's more like psychological thrillers with a heavy emphasis on a character study. That's my thing. The author I'm talking about is Tana French. I started out reading her In the Woods, which is the first book in her Dublin Murder Squad trilogy. No, not trilogy. There are 6 books out. That's a sexology. I don't know. 6 books. How much is that? I read this book. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. I liked how it's a thrilling story that plays with your mind and makes you wonder and guess. And I love how it's a character study. So it's much more about the main character, his background, his feelings, and how he tackles whatever is going on during his work in the murder squad. That's all I'm going to say. And then after having finished that one, I was very curious to read the second one as well, which I ended up giving 4 stars. Also, this is the likeness, and this one follows another character from this murder squad crew. And that's what I love about the series as well, is that every book follows a new character, but from the same surroundings, the same crew. So you kind of feel like you know them, but then you get a chance to really encounter them in their book. I will say, if I had to choose between these two, I don't know why I started this sentence, because I wouldn't be able to do so. I love them both equally. But I think that this book actually kind of reminded me of The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which gives it a big plus in my book, I think. But it was also a very long book, whereas this one felt like a quicker read. But I really can't choose between my darlings. I am currently reading the 3rd book in the series, and I have the 4th book on my wish list for my birthday, which I'm pretty sure my mother is going to give to me. So I am happy about that. But who knew I would actually fall so much in love with crime and thrillers? I had no idea that was coming, but it seems like this summer was my summer of thrillers, crime, and all those horrific books. And that is it for my summer's favorites. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm pretty sure my next video is going to be my autumn TBR, just because autumn is over us and I feel like I want to pick out a few titles that will be perfect for windy and cloudy days. Thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, happy reading.